Hello and welcome back to another episode of Views from the Top, powered by Oread Wealth Partners. My name is Scott Sturgeon. I'm the founder and senior wealth advisor at Oread Wealth Partners. We're a fee-only fiduciary financial planning and wealth management firm working with a variety of different clients to essentially help them achieve and work towards financial objectives, financial goals, and really achieve the things and attain the things in life that they are passionate about. With that, today's topic, we're talking three key considerations, three important points to consider in deciding whether to work locum tenens. And I say deciding to work, but it could be you are currently working locum tenens and maybe have been for some time. And really the objective of this video is just to identify and highlight three high-level points that I at least think are important for any doctor or physician to consider implementing and making sure that they're covering in doing that type of work. So what is very shortly locum tenens for those who have not heard? It's essentially contract work for physicians, a very Latin way of saying that. So honestly, just like ride-sharing drivers or freelance creative types who do website design as an example, doctors can work for smaller hospitals or smaller practices, typically in smaller towns or areas that don't typically have as much access or easier access to doctors. And so the flexibility and benefits of doing so can be pretty numerable. And but with that too, there's also a lot of considerations to be had. So without further ado, we will dive right in. Okay, first important point is, I think, just a change in mentality from that of an employee to an employer. And what I mean by saying that is maybe you have worked in a private practice and maybe you have an ownership stake in it, and so maybe this isn't as much of an adjustment. But when you go from working for example, a large hospital, you're an employee of that hospital, right? You do your work for them, you're paid your salary, maybe you get a bonus at the end of the year, but you probably also have a lot of ancillary benefits on top of that pay that you're not typically thinking about. So maybe that's health insurance, maybe you have retirement plan contributions they're matching or meeting. You're probably importantly having taxes withheld on all of your paychecks. And so all of these are elements typically that employees of firms or really any company can often forget about when they are working for those companies. It's just something that you kind of get your paycheck every 2 weeks, and it's really, out of sight, out of mind, if you will. When you transition to working locum tenens, all of that kind of goes away, and you go from being an employee to actually an employer. You are your own employer, essentially. And so with that, as you might imagine, kind of taking that hat and putting on a different one, putting on the employer hat, things kind of, as you might imagine, there's a lot of things to kind of consider or think through that you want to make sure that you're addressing. I mean, obviously off the bat, things like tracking expenses for mileage, for health insurance that you're having to pay for, typically insurance policies that maybe you're covering. You might start have to make, or probably already are, but might have to start making quarterly tax payments for income that you've earned. Your income essentially becomes revenue for your firm, and it's important that you're tracking expenses to make sure that you're offsetting all of that income by those expenses. There's just obviously a lot of tax benefits to doing so, but sometimes it's just hard to track all of that information. So for sure, I mentioned it, tax issues are a big one. Making sure, are there quarterly payments to be made? Obviously in conjunction with maybe a spouse's earnings, that's gonna have kind of maybe throw a wrench in things in terms of your tax picture. So working with a CPA or someone who's knowledgeable on tax prep and planning especially could be really helpful. And certainly last within that kind of first point of just being a business owner is making sure that you are protecting yourself from, I guess what I would call downside risk, if you will. So, when you were an employee, you probably got your paycheck every 2 weeks pretty consistently, and again, maybe your bonus at the end of the year. So kind of your cash flow picture was relatively predictable. But as a business owner, maybe working locum tenens, you're kind of on a contract basis from contract to contract. And so making sure you're planning and kind of allocating your cash flow correctly is important, making sure you have enough cash on hand to pay for things, but also at the same time balancing that with maybe investing it or putting that money to work in various places. The other element too that's important within that is just making sure you're protecting from downside risk. So making sure that you're having, like I mentioned, malpractice insurance is obviously something that you're going to want to make sure that you have in place. And also just making sure that you're protected against personal liabilities as well. So something like an umbrella policy is typically the best route or one of the better ways to go about that. So all this to say that it's kind of a mental shift, if you will, and not necessarily in a bad way, but certainly a learning curve there and something to be mindful of and consider in entering the locum tenens process. All right, point number one is a lot to take in, and point number two, obviously, or arguably, it might even be a bigger one, and that is just making sure that your contracts are set up in a way that is advantageous to you and a best fit for you. And really, when I mean, just saying contracts are key. The contracted terms of whatever you enter with the provider that you're going to be working for is going to really dictate the way that the relationship between the two of you will go. So making sure that you have a lot of things very clearly set and defined within that agreement are important. Number one, just having a clear job description. What am I going to be doing and what am I not going to be doing, and working as a contractor for this hospital system, if, for example. What is my compensation going to be during the time frame that I'm working there? When does the contract begin? When does it end? And really kind of, in what ways will I be compensated? And what, is it every 2 weeks? Is it once a month? Is it part of it up front, part of it at the end? Whatever the structure is, that's going to be unique to you and whatever that provider has. And they probably have boilerplate language that they use, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's something you just need to take at face value. Working with an attorney who has experience in these, having someone review that but review it, make sure that it adheres to your goals and objectives and what you're looking for from your type of contract work is important, and it's maybe a nominal cost to doing that, but certainly something that's going to be worth your while. The added element too of contracts is that there oftentimes can be considerations of, let's say I start this contract, I've worked in it for 2 weeks and I can't stand the employees I work with, or I hate the coffee in the break room, or I fell in or broke my knee and I can't work this contract anymore. What are my outs from that contract? Am I able to get out of it essentially, or am I somehow bound somehow to that? And if I need to leave, is there some sort of penalty on either party really on determining to end that contract? So again, a lot of considerations, but certainly something worth your time and making sure that it's a best fit for you. Okay, third and final point is really just financial planning around locum tenens work. So we've talked a lot, we've already alluded to the fact that at your maybe employer or at your old practice, you probably had access to maybe retirement plans, maybe you had some sort of equity agreement with partners or the company that you worked for. Whatever the case may be, ancillary benefits outside of just your pay. Making sure that you're covering those bases and still planning for the future is important in transitioning to locum tenens work. And in fact, there can be a lot of benefits to doing so. Even if you're technically retired from working as a physician, or maybe in your mind you are, locum tenens can be a great way to earn additional income, potentially at a higher rate per hour than hospital employees might be. And at the same time, take advantage of certain types of retirement accounts and various contributions to those to continue to build wealth over time, and do that in a tax efficient manner, and reducing potentially your overall tax impact, both in the present day and into the future. So things like, for example, solo 401k can be a really good fit sometimes for various locum tenens practitioners. ROTH or backdoor ROTH contributions, typically done through an IRA and a Roth IRA in combination with each other, or even a health savings account, one of my favorites personally, can all be used, even sometimes individually or sometimes together, as a really tax efficient path towards, again, building that wealth, saving dollars more tax efficiently, and really reducing your tax burden in the present day to ideally kick that tax can down the road to when you're going to be in lower tax brackets, ideally someday in the future. So again, 3 high-level points. All of these typically are going to maybe in some fashion or another be applicable, some not, but I think they're at least important to walk through the considerations of and think through and make sure that whatever contract or role that you're looking to take on is going to be a best fit for you in any of these 3 kind of buckets, if you will, or these 3 kind of high-level points. If any of this kind of strikes a chord with you, makes you scratch your head or makes your head spin, hopefully not, take a seat, relax. By all means, reach out. Our website, www.oreadwealth.com. And in the bottom right of the screen on any landing page there, I think, there should be a link to schedule time with me. Just a free consultation. We'll talk through your current financial picture and really, and maybe more importantly, kind of what you're looking to do with your career, with your personal life. Really, what are the things that you're looking to achieve and obtain in life in general? What are you passionate about, and how can we help you How can we partner together in helping you work towards those goals and objectives? So again, I'm Scott Sturgeon with Oread Wealth Partners. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see you soon again on the next episode of Views from the Top.